Author's Log Supplemental 14.25. So this week I'm going to do two supplementals, and in this one I'm going to talk about the plotting because I've kind of come to the end of what I've already plotted for in Catcalled. When I did the Blake Snyder beat sheet, I only got up to about fun and games, and I knew a couple of things that I wanted to happen in fun and games, but I tend to keep it a little loosey-goosey so that I've got plenty of room to change things or allow for modifications, or as I write, new ideas will come in, or it'll change how I decide to do something a little bit so that I can go back and do more plotting later or hammer out what I need to happen. I'm at about 27,000 words right now, and I've gotten maybe 2 events in the fun and games thing kind of happening. By the end of April, I'll be at about 45,000 words roughly, maybe a little bit more. So I need to be up to the midpoint by the end of this month, because that's about halfway through the book. So I need to figure out what the hell I'm writing this month. You know, this is really important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. The story so far. So I've got the party, which is the opening image, the twins together. They're at the party, which is part of the setup, is the party, and then the night run afterwards. It demonstrates them at work, which is the party, at play, that's the run, doing what they do, and also at home. You know, they're kind of dynamic at home right before they go running. So I get all 3 of those things in that one little area. The catalyst, the parents aren't home. Now in the setup, I had a couple of weird things kind of happening, a couple of tip-offs, a couple of foreshadows that something was weird was going on. And then the catalyst is their parents aren't home. After the night run, they call, nobody calls back. They finally call some neighbors who go and check, and they say, yeah, no, the door's unlocked, nobody's here. The cars are here, the keys are here, their cell phones are here, nobody's home. So they're like, oh crap, our parents aren't there. They should be, this is really unusual. So that's the catalyst, it pushes them into doing something. So I've got that done, yay. The debate, do we go? They're in Montana, we're in New Hampshire. We have jobs. We have a presentation to make Monday. We don't have a car right now because our car was mashed up in this one, so we can't drive there. We've only got the Miata, and I don't know if you've ever tried to ride in a Miata for any length of time. Not comfortable. So do we go? We go. Break into 2. The call to action, they answer it, break into 2, they're going. So they've decided, so they're calling their boss, you know. Bella calls her immediate boss, but while they're on the phone with the immediate boss, the owner of the company, Rafe, calls the main character about the car. Somehow ends up finding out, because he just asks questions, that something's happening with their parents. I'll help. Sends them to the airport. Picks them up in a private plane because, hey, that's awesome. And that brings us to the fun and games. What I have so far for the fun and games. So the first thing we have in fun and games is looking at the house. They get to the house in the middle of the night, you know, Rafe is still there. Well, they have to look at the house, but they're cats, and they're not supposed to let anybody else know that they can turn into cats. So they have to do that while Rafe is in the house, kind of sneakily and everything. So they go out in the woods, following a scent trail that they had found inside the house that smelled a little bit like something else that had happened earlier, and they went to follow that into the woods. So that's the second happening, or big event, that happens in the fun and games. We have a fight in the woods. The twins fight as cats in the woods. This does a little bit of explaining about their powers, their limitations, what they can do. And it also ends up showing something about Rafe. So they got to that, so now we know, so now the twins know that Rafe knows something. So the third scene that happens is Rafe explains some stuff. Not everything, but some stuff. So I just finished that, and then we have the next happening, which is, the Queen of the Unseelie Court invites them to an audience. So that's where I'm at in the fun and games. The problem is, for the midpoint, I need a lot more things to happen. This isn't quite enough. I know this looks like a lot, but it's really not as much as it seems. Like I said, this is about, I'm at 27, right as the Unseelie Court representative invites them, or extends the Queen's invitation to them to come to court. That just happened. But I need to get them from the Unseelie Court to a showdown with a guy from the Seelie Court. in which they want to exchange the parents for the key. So I got to figure out how to get them from here to there in 10, 15,000 words. So 10, 15, 3 to 4,000 words a piece. You see, I got a few scenes to go. So let me see, to do Unseelie Court, fight in the woods, Unseelie Court. So yeah, I need to get them from the Unseelie Court to the showdown. So how do I do that? Yeah, it's a good question. And that's what we're here for. So right now we have a logical progression to these. So we go to the Unseelie Court. Now we learn a bunch of stuff about the Fae. So then it's going to be, that's the invitation. So then they're at the Unseelie Court. Let's see. What do they find out at the Unseelie Court? The Unseelie Queen is not involved. She did not send guys to do stuff, to grab their parents. But she knows what they're after. So here's where the key gets revealed. So now they understand what the guy who took their parents is looking for. What is that guy looking for? It's the key, and they have it. And they found it, well, Brea found it all the way up here. And she told her sister about it a little further in. So they know it's there, they just didn't know what it was. So that's when they get that piece of information. Then, what would be most logical at this point? Well, the guy knows that that they have it at this point. So yeah, ultimatum sent. So at this point, I don't know exactly when. I'll have to get a feel for it as I go. I just know this event needs to happen. At some point they'll be sitting there and somebody will come to them and say, hey, we have your parents, meet us at thus and such a time, and we'll trade them for the key. They have another debate, and then they're just going to go to the showdown. So I'm here, I need to go through, they're at the Unseelie Court, which that'll take a little time to describe, because that's a whole new thing, and that's part of the fun and games, is learning about the world and what's going on, and they're going to go to the Unseelie Court. It's going to be beautiful, it's going to be weird, they're going to, talk to the Unseelie Queen and some of her court, find out that the Unseelie are not involved, even though the entities that attacked them in the woods are technically members of her court, which is what ties them in and why they think it might be her for a little while. That obviously gets derailed because the Fae do not lie. They cannot lie. And if she flat out says, I did not send them to do this, they were not working under my orders, then they were not. She might have known about it, but she didn't send them. Totally different things. And then she says, well, whoever it is, they're looking for this, and they thought your parents had it. So they took them to get you to give it to them. So when they get back, someone in her court will have told the guy, or something of that nature, because, information travels. An ultimatum will be sent to them, hey, meet us here, we'll give you your parents the key. They debate because now they know what the key is, they know what it does. One of them wants to give it to them to get their parents back because they just don't care, or they care more about the parents, and the other one doesn't. So they go to the showdown, and stuff happens. I'll have to break this down. I'll break this down when I get to the midpoint itself. Then I'll talk a bit about how to break down the midpoint. And this is going to be what is known as a false defeat. It seems like it should be in the Whiff of Death section, and I tried that at first, you can see in a couple episodes back, and that didn't work. So that's why it's here now, because this is where it should happen. This is a false defeat. And then I'll go into the bad guys close in. Because I've already decided that the Unseelie Court, the Queen is going to send someone to help in the situation because she's going to know what's happening. And the price for that is that their mother will stay in the Unseelie Court. The mother doesn't get to go home. So they don't get their father. Their mother is basically, under the power of the Unseelie Queen at this point. And that's one of the prices that they have to pay for her help, is the mother stays at the court as leverage for later, because that's how the Fae work. So I got a little bit of that going. They'll learn some information from the mother, a whole lot more about what's going on. One of the things I'm trying to do with this is, as far as pacing goes, is that every time they learn something, it only asks more questions. So they go a little up and then down, and within a little up and then down. They just kind of end up digging themselves deeper and deeper with everything that they know. Like everything Rafe explains, every time he gives them an answer, they've got 3 or 4 more questions. You know, there's a whole bunch. It just all those answers, every answer that they get in this book, just shows them how much they don't know about the world. It expands the world and just shows them how much more they don't know. So that's kind of the big theme in the book itself, I think. I'm guessing. I don't know. I let themes kind of figure themselves out. So that's what I'm doing, and here's what it looks like. So this is my fun and games, and this is Midpoint. So I'm here, and I have to get to here by the end of April. So I have a month to write all the rest of this stuff. Yay! So that's what it looks like, and like I said, I'll come back to this again at the midpoint, because by the midpoint I've got a basic idea of where I want the fun and games, or where I want the bad guys closing in to go. Things like more explanations from the mother about what's going on, more bad guys get sent after the twins to try to take the key. The twins are fighting. That's gonna put the twins at odds because they didn't agree here, and they're kind of blaming each other, or one of them is blaming the other for the father's death, and that other one is blaming themselves for the father's death. So that goes into the bad guys closing in. So I have a basic idea of what I want to happen, but I'm not going to break it down like this until I get to the midpoint itself, and then I'll do this again. So that's where I'm at. That's what's happening here. This is what I've got. And even doing this episode made me think of things. So I was like, ooh, I could do this, and oh, I could do that. So every time you kind of go over this, it really helps every time to kind of flesh things out. Like, I know I have to go back and do some more here. So I'll write that down as a note on my editing list of things that I need to do. So I have to decide at some point what the Unseelie Queen sounds like. How does she lie with the truth? What does she like to say? What is her personality? Or how is her personality going to shine through in how she speaks to them? So that's something I have to do when I get here. I have to describe the Unseelie Court, which is going to be all kinds of fun. So there's a lot of stuff ahead of me. So that's April. I am participating in Camp NaNoWriMo this month. I've got at least one person with me, so that's good. So if you're interested at all in writing with me and chatting with me and seeing my daily thing go up and just enjoying a month of writing with other people, join campnanowrimo.org, I believe. Yeah, just look up Camp NaNoWriMo. My username is Stila. So that's what I'm doing. Any questions or anything like that, email is down below. Give us comments. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm working hard. I'm actually pretty excited, because normally I kind of stall by now, but doing this whole series in the first place is really requiring me to write. The accountability of you guys watching is making me write, and that is very helpful. So thanks, guys. This is awesome. So I will see you guys next week. Get writing.